Lights, camera, action. Oh, I forgot! IFD! Oh yeah, I have a couple new additions to my desk. I got a pin board. Isn't it cute? Because I keep getting pins from things, and then I'm like, well, I have nowhere really to put them. I don't want to put them on a bag and then lose them. So I've had these for a while from Vampire Survivor. I got AC/DC from the concert, Kroby. I got Grandpa, he dead. Oh yeah, I have it like on my desk here. Yeah, I figured that would be a nicer way to use my, or put my pins somewhere. It's so nice. I also have like, I don't know if I showed you guys, but I have a second monitor here. And it's like a tiny portable monitor. So this is my computer screen duplicated to like a tiny portable thing. I can see if I'm dropping frames, I can see if I still have a connection, if I'm recording okay. The setup is getting better and better. Okay. Is this a mirror? Oh, are we doing... Oh no, it's a magnifying glass. Let's see. Let's do our little checklist. Ooh, this looks good. It's a photocopy of an old letter. That's awesome. Get out of that box! Episode 4. I'm so excited. Okay, we need another letter from Rosemary. Here it is. So this is Rosemary's letter. So got that. Carver's message. We have a play. A drawing. Okay. Maybe this is Carver's message? It's because it's written to Rosemary. Anthony's note. That's this one. Historical reenactment script. That's this one. Account of search party expedition. Is that maybe this? These are diary pages. Building records. Forest map. That must be this thing. Magnifying glass, compass. So we need building records and search party expedition. So it must be these things. Yeah. Must be complete then. Okay. Oh, this is so excited! We're back in business. Let's start with Rosemary, as we always do. Oh, and we have to actually get the website open again. Might be new stuff there, too. Oh, I didn't even know I was in the middle of a run! I forgot! It's just Act 1, though. Oh, I gotta fight the slime. It's probably a shit run anyway. Anyway. I guess you guys can open the website as well on your phone if you want to. If you want to look at the same time. But let's start with the letter. This is good, right? You guys can see this? Yeah. There. Okay. Hello. Carver left me another message a few nights ago. He left a note right on my front doorstep. Of all the sick, invasive, downright evil things to do, hasn't this son of a beesh done enough to me? When will I have suffered enough? When I think about him slithering around in the woods, looking at my home from the tree line and peering into my windows, my head gets light and I get so nauseated that I feel as though I might be dying. I can't sleep at all. Well, feeling nauseated is not exactly the same as feeling like you're dying, but okay. I can't sleep at all anymore. Every night I just sit up on the porch or in Tristan's bed with Hud's old shotgun in my lap until the sun finally rises. Sometimes I'll hear a noise in the night and run towards it, finally ready to pull the trigger on this lunatic, but it's only ever the wind. I haven't shown Lanning Carver's message. It'll just get sent off to some lab where it'll gather dust on a shelf for months, if not years. Even if it gets fast-tracked, what good will it do? The sheriff's office already knows where he is, and they're still not finding him. The forest is too huge and confusing for them to handle. It's time to take this completely into my own hands, like I should have from the beginning. There's no point in spending another second in this house or this town. My sons aren't here. They're in the forest. Carver's only got cockier over these past few months. At this point, he wants me to come out and find him. Something in that note has to give us some sort of context as to where he's hiding. Luckily, even if the lead is obscure, we've got a bona fide expert on the Black Hills Forest on our side. It took a while to convince Anthony to help me collect what we need. He kept trying to talk me down at first. Eventually, I had to grab him by the shoulders, look him dead in the eyes, and tell him that there's already one man standing between me and my sons. That one man is already one too many, and that friendship or no, I'm prepared to bring that number to 0 by any means necessary. That finally convinced him to relent. Anthony gathered most of what I'm sending to you from the museum attic. He said that since the forest is so dangerous, my best chance of making a successful journey out there is to study the accounts of people who made trips deep into the woods and lived to tell the tale. You'll need to cross-reference the map with the historical accounts Anthony has given us and find the location of Carver's hiding place. When you figure it out, send me the correct map coordinates on the tip line at kencase.com. Even though I'm going to be totally alone out there, I have faith that the help I get from the outside is going to see me through. Rosemary. Ooh. Okay. So this is where we're going to put in the answer later. Okay, let's start at Sunday. I just found 2 little figures in the front yard. They're made of sticks and twine. Ooh. They look vaguely human. I feel sick to my stomach and furious all at once. I think I can zoom in a bit more. Oh no, this is max. Okay. I can maybe do this? Yeah. I spent all day in the museum wading through research that Anthony gathered for me about the other children that have gone missing. He's been helping me out as best he can, trying to teach me about the history of the area. He says he wants me to be armed with knowledge. I've avoided that kind of research until today because it felt like giving in to superstition, but I don't know what else to do at this point. Still, if any of this were real, someone would have found something in the woods by now. Sure, all legends come from a grain of truth, but that's a grain. Ooh, little sticks. This time there were 4 stick figures left out on the porch, all different sizes. I found them a few minutes ago when I accidentally stepped on the largest one when I was leaving for work. Ooh, breaking them is bad, isn't it? I've been watching the porch with Hud's gun in my lap all night, but no sign of Carver. I can barely keep my eyes open right now. Going to make another cup of coffee. There was a stick figure waiting for me in my seat as soon as I got back. I dropped the cup and it shattered all over the porch. I managed to slice my palm open trying to pick up the shards. I can't go on living like this. Something has to give. Not my cup of coffee! I managed to sleep for a few hours, dreamed about Liam and Tristan and Hudson sitting around a campfire that grew and grew until it ate all 3 of them away. I'm going to lose them for good if I don't act now. I just know it. I gotta find Carver. But how? How can I do better than the search parties I've already been doing? This time it was a direct message, a taunt and an invitation, and God help me, I got no choice but to answer it. I'm going to ask Anthony to help me out one last time, and then I'm going to send everything I got to the detective. I think I finally have everything I need. I got food, a map, hunting knife, Hud's gun, plenty of batteries for my flashlight, portable Wi-Fi hotspot, and tank. I'm ready to go. I just need to know where. That's not gonna go well. We only need to check 4, I think, since we're on episode 4. Can't forget the Wi-Fi. Very important. I know I phrased this a bit dispassionately when I made my first announcement, but I cannot stress enough how important it is that every resident of Burkittsville stays out of the Black Hills Forest. Since my last update, I've been finding piles of stones all around the outskirts of town on my walks, like something is slowly building a wall between us and the forest. The message couldn't possibly be any more clear. Whatever's in there wants to hunt everyone who sets foot in the forest. Hurt anyone. My children and I have been having nightmares just from the thought of what will happen there next. They've been waking me up in the middle of the night to ask me if they're going to go missing next. What am I supposed to tell them? I understand the concern for poor Tristan Kent and the urgency that many of you feel to resolve his disappearance, as well as the hope that came with finding some of Liam Kent's possessions in the forest. But none of this will end in anything but heartbreak. It never has, not even once. Andrea Tan, who was present for the search party's discovery, has informed me in no uncertain terms that Liam's things appear to be arranged, not dropped. By trying to search the forest, aren't we playing directly into the hands of whoever, or whatever, took them? What happened to the second son? I think he got taken at the end of the last episode. Are you serious? A woman lost her children and you're worried about what to tell yours about the situation? I agree. No one should be stepping foot into that place at all. I've been saying this ever since those college students disappeared, and still, nobody listens. They interviewed my cousin for their little movie right before they vanished. Ah! And he said they seemed so sweet. Somebody should have warned them off their project. Sarah, I know you're acting in the best interest of the people in this town. That was 20 years ago, and we don't know exactly what happened. Besides, those kids weren't from here. The people of this town grew up with that forest, and we know better than anyone. Agreed. The Kent family's business is their own. My heart goes out to Rosemary. It really does. But at the end of the day, we all have our own people to look out for. That reminds me, two things I want to say. The first is I had a lucid dream this night, and it was awesome. I'll close this for now. I usually have like anxiety dreams where I like have to get something arranged and I just can't get it done in time, and then I get really stressed and like people are waiting on me, blah blah blah. I usually have those kind of anxiety dreams, or BB gets missing or something like that. And this time I was dreaming that again. I dreamt that I was like, I knocked over a box with like full of people's homeworks and tests and stuff, and I had to organize the whole thing. I tried to organize the whole thing before people came back into class. So I was like getting stressed, and it just kept slipping out, and everything kept getting like messed up and stuff. And then I was like, fuck this. I am dreaming right now. I don't have to worry about this shit. I'm not even in school anymore. And then I walked away and I went into a bathroom, and then I was like, I'm ready to wake up now. And then I woke up. That was so crazy. I've never done that before. So I was like, can I do that again, please, next time? Oh yeah, second point I wanted to make. I'm reading this book right now that really makes me think of this. So if you're into this kind of stuff, like small town people going missing and kind of like the whole town is like, can't really do anything about it. I'm reading, it was on advice of someone, Where He Can't Find You is what it's called, by Darcy Coates. I started reading that one, and it's a town that's haunted by the Stitcher, and basically it's like, don't go out at night, never go out on your own, lock all your doors and windows, and people just go missing, and then they're found. Basically, they're being taken apart, and then their body will show up at some random time later, and they're stitched together with a different victim. So he stitches like random body parts together and then leaves them somewhere for people to find, and he marks the area with red thread, so then if the cops see red thread, then they know that there's a body nearby. Yeah, and it's so, like, it's a page turner for sure. I can't wait to read more tonight, basically. It's really, really good. It's just like, it kind of gave me Stranger Things vibes in the beginning, because it's just like a group of kids. And they're like, cops aren't going to do anything. Like, they have no suspects. They're basically headless chickens. And they have this group chat, and they kind of like keep updating each other, and they keep always let each other know where we are at all times, and blah, blah, blah. And then one of the group goes missing, and then shit is wild. They're just like, the hunt begins. We have to find them. It's awesome. Yeah, it was really good. The forest. Cool. Forest Water Hill Track. Okay. So we have a ton of reading. Let me just go by the order that's on this. So Carver's message is next, which is this one. Rosemary, the boys keep calling out into the woods for you, and you never answer them. You've barely been letting them down over these past few months, haven't you? In fact, you've been letting them down for their entire lives. Never able to protect them, to comfort them, to realize the depth of their pain. At least now you'll never be able to fail them again either. Remember when you'd play hide-and-seek with Liam when he was little? How he would always hide in the roots of that gnarled old tree at the very edge of the forest. I'd watch from the tree line, seeing you pretend to search everywhere, even though he'd always hid in the same place. I'm sure you wish it was that easy now, but this game is going to be a fair measure more challenging. You're not going to be able to just waltz into the woods and stumble upon the light of my campfire. That's not what she wants. She wants you to suffer, and so do I. But if you're smart enough, maybe you'll be able to find your way to your sons. Maybe you'll even get a glimpse of dear old Hud. Oh, and in case you haven't figured it out yet, there's a reason that your search parties have failed to find me for so long. Sunlight conceals the truth of the forest. To see the light of my fire, you'll have to enter after dark. I don't need to tell you to come by yourself. I already know you will. And then we have a secret message. Let's have a look. I should still have... Here it is. So, there. Let's see. There's that one. So it's an F. There. Find. What's the second one? U? I'm rusty. Oh, S. Find us. Find us. Should I write it down somewhere? I should just write it at the top. Find us. Let's see. W H E R. Find us where? Find us where Shred? No. Yeah. Is this Shred? R E D. Yeah. Shred. P R O. Propriety? I think it's propriety. Yeah, T-Y. Yeah, propriety. Was 3 circles. L-O-S. Lost. Find us where a shred of propriety was lost. And then what is this? Oh, that's a C. Carter. Yeah, Carter. Find us where a shred of propriety was lost. Time for a closer look. Dun 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 dun. I don't see anything. No black light on this one. Okay. After that, it is Anthony's note. That's this one. Okay. Investigator. That's me. Or us. Since Rosemary is truly hell-bent on doing this, and you're the one who's managed to help her get this far already, I'm going to do everything in my power to arm the both of you with as much information as possible. I collected a few things I think will help you navigate the forest. 3 historical documents, a map, a magnifying glass, and a compass. The 3 historical... Well, we know from the movie that compasses don't work. The 3 historical documents have each been taken from the museum's archives. I'm including them because they each convey the experience of someone who spent a prolonged period of time in the woods and came out more or less intact. I hope they'll provide some guidance on how to get your bearings in the woods and how to navigate between 3 of its major landmarks in particular once you do. I imagine the map of its accompanying instruments will be useful on that front as well. As far as I'm aware, the map itself is the most geographically accurate account of the forest to date. That's including satellite imagery. Digital imaging of the area has always proven to be a challenge. There's actually a very interesting history behind the map and the man who made it. Emmanuel Damos was a renowned surveyor and cartographer who was hired by a now-defunct sawmill to chart out the area in 1953. After a number of facilities' employees began to complain that none of the maps of the area were accurate. As the story goes, Damos became obsessed with the forest during that period. When he turned in the map, he told sawmill officials that traditional directions don't work in the forest and that instead, travelers had to move according to the cues that the land itself gives them. That's cool! He said he considered the cues to be cardinal. That strikes me as melodramatic. Strikes me as a melodramatic way to describe the cartographic process. But I suppose that he'd earned the right at that point, seeing as he'd successfully charted a region that had confounded his colleagues for centuries. The record on Damos gets a little hazy after that. He completely fell off the map, so to speak, within a year of completing the project. The compass and magnifying glass I'm passing on to you belong to Damos as well. Oh shit! Maybe using them will help you see the forest the same way he did. Alright, I admit that I'm rambling on about obscure historical facts so that I don't have to put my feelings into words. Detective, I want you to know that Rosemary is the strongest person I've ever met. She's managed to stand tall for so long in the face of such unbelievable loss, but at the end of the day, she's only human, and the forces she's going up against aren't. Please do the best you can to see her through this. Anthony. Okay. Just making sure. No messages. Okay. That was his thing. Okay, so he has 3 things on the map, he said, right? So that must be these things. We have images of the house. She wants me to build. So maybe he's hiding in a house in town? Which one do you want to read first? The play or the diary entries? Okay, let's go diary first. I've scanned a few journal pages of a young man named Aloysius. Do you read that as Aloysius? Can you guys see that? Aloysius? Aloysius Masters. Mr. Masters was a member of a search party that combed through the forest for a number of days in the late 19th century, making several valuable, though largely unconfirmed and inexplicable observations along the way. Aloysius? Oh, really? Aloysius? Damn. Must be an old name then. Master's journals were passed down through his family for years before being donated to the museum by a great-great-granddaughter who was moving out of town and didn't want to carry much of her past with her. Damn. Hopefully her loss will be your gain. Yeah. Okay, let's motherfucking read. March 14th, 1886. Back in town now. Spent a day out in the forest once again. This is gonna be painful on my eyes. Traveled several hours past the Bone White Rock where we ended our search yesterday, but still to no avail. We 14 able-bodied men, volunteers from about town who know the area and its peculiarities well, have not been able to find any sign that another human being has ever been in these woods at all. It was tragic, yet not unsurprising, when that young girl became lost in the forest. It still disturbs me to the utmost degree, however, to think that the first group of men sent to search for her should disappear as well. We, the 14 members of the second search party, count our friends and brothers and sons amongst the lost, and we have found neither hair nor hide of them, and not of the girl herself, for 2 days now. The only discovery of note thus far was that of a puddle of some viscous substance that none of us could rightfully identify, which one man nearly lost about to when he accidentally stumbled into it. Though I do not put much stock in the ghost stories used to frighten children in these parts, I still become deeply unsettled when I set foot into the forest. I feel as though a weight has been pressed upon my shoulders and a pair of eyes is focused on the back of my neck. We will take up our search once again at sunrise. I hope that tomorrow's efforts bring us greater success. March 15th, so the next day. Mr. Robertson, who misjudged a step into that strange puddle, returned this morning with a pair of borrowed boots. He complained that even though he had hung his boots above the fire all night, they continued to be soaked with the strange substance he stepped into. Ooh. Near the end of the day's search, a member of our party called upon us to report that he had found a human tooth embedded into a gnarled stump of a white tree. When he had attempted to sit down to rest upon it. The men wasted almost an hour of daylight debating the tooth, half insisting that it was indeed human, while half swore it appeared to belong to an animal. One young man named Thomas Willard, was frightened beyond belief by it, trembling like a leaf in a gale, as he insisted that the witch had set her gaze upon us. I stayed silent, as I did not know what I believed. Maybe Gillard, yeah. We found nothing else of note, and when we returned to town it was with heavy hearts and slumped shoulders, especially once we spied curious children and wistful wives watching us return utterly empty-handed. We all went to our homes shaken and shamed. I am certain it will not be the only man tonight praying for some sign of the missing men. March 16th. I'm hurting my elbow leaning on the table. Thomas Gillard refused to return to the woods today. When the 13 of us came to collect him, we found that he had barred his doors and hung a cross in his window, and he refused to speak to any of us. We embarked without him. Though we encountered neither monsters nor witches, strange events did occur during today's search. While I am by no means ready to join Mr. Gillard in his beliefs concerning witchcraft, I feel I must describe today's events to assist my own understanding. We began our day much the same as we always had, by spreading out in a foundation formation intended to cover as much ground as possible. We left perhaps 40 feet between each man to properly sight any potential clues. I can recall with absolute clarity Mr. Josiah Johnson, our party's leader, standing to my direct left. Okay. We came upon the large white rock once again. Rock? I thought it was a stump. And were about to set out from the stone when I noticed a faint sound. I listened closely to locate the source of the sound, and though it eluded me, it soon became apparent that the sound itself was that of a man calling for help. I turned to my left to alert Josiah, but saw another man instead. Mr. Johnson was now standing to my right. What? Although I had not once veered from my course, nor had I seen another man cross my path. When I attempted to alert Mr. Johnson and the others of the noise, no other man seemed able to hear it, though I was only increasing in volume and desperation. Despite this, the men swore to me that the forest was silent as the grave. It was then I began to hear the voice screaming out my name. I insisted we follow it. I must have seemed either quite sincere or quite desperate, because Mr. Johnson agreed to break from our planned course. From where we stood at the large white rock, we followed the stream towards the sound I heard. Almost as soon as we changed course, we came across a pile of dead rodents, 10 or more. They appeared to have died fighting one another, as their flesh was torn to shreds. We walked 2 hours in that same direction, the smell of their rot seeming to linger with us long after we had passed them. Then, as we neared a fork in the stream, we sighted a wisp of smoke in the distance, at an angle from our current course. It surprised us all, especially myself. I have been a resident of the town of Burkittsville for the better part of 20 years, and, with the exception of certain old wives' tales, there have been no accounts of anyone taking up residence this far out into the woods. We turned slightly to head towards the smoke. We traveled 3 hours through ancient oak trees. I remember thinking the sound of the wind through the trees' leaves sounded not unlike the whispering of an old woman, and then I realized that I did not feel any wind upon my face. I was about to comment on the strange phenomenon of the wind to the other men when I spotted the cabin. The home was a small structure in ill repair. The smoke we had seen lingered in a large amount around the house. In a haze. The smoke we had seen lingered in a haze around the house, though we could not see its source. We went closer to inspect it, which required us to navigate a very short stretch of hilled terrain. I don't know what this says. Our sightline? Could be, yeah. Regain what should have been a direct sight line Oh my god, the structure was gone. This is so hard to read. We searched the entire area, but not a single one of us could find any trace of the cabin again. If you have dyslexia, you are fucked trying to read this. The stream of smoke remained in the sky directly above where the cabin should have been. Mr. Johnson insisted that the sighting of the cabin and the smoke must have been no more than a trick of our own minds. We were seeing it for 3 hours, though, experienced by many men due to our desperation. Though I took a small delight in not being the only man glimpsing some sort of phenomena, I could not help but think enviously of Thomas Gillard sitting in the safety of his home. 2 members of our party vanished during our search. The first was Mr. Robertson, who seemingly disappeared into thin air half an hour after we crossed into the wood. Some other men turned to call for him. I do not recall who. And then that calling intensified to a frenzy. Soon the whole search party was running about searching for him. Some suggested he may have turned to coward and headed home, as Mr. Gillard had. But a moment later we set eyes upon a small bundle of sticks, wound with a set of slime-covered bootlaces. Mr. Michaels disappeared shortly after. He volunteered to head back to town to see if he could find Mr. Robertson. As it turns out, he never completed his journey. When the remaining 11 of us returned at the end of a fruitless day, I thought it said clay, it was to the screaming and hysteria of the town. Apparently, sometime during our excursion, someone had placed small wooden effigies in the shape of men on the doorstep of Robertson's and Michael's homes. Though I did not know either of these men well, I am deeply affected by their strange and sudden loss. Mr. Gillard made the right decision when he chose to stay out of the woods. Last night I dreamt that I was alone in the woods in the dead of the night. As I stumbled around in the dark, I noticed 2 lights in the distance. They hovered among the trees for a long moment, maybe, before being snuffed out, leaving me totally alone once again. I cannot help but believe them to be the souls of Robertson and Michaels, lost inside that labyrinthine wood, or perhaps they were a pair of eyes. I awoke this morning covered in sweat, with 2 small pinpricks upon the back of my neck. What? They continuously bleed, no matter the amount of pressure I put upon them. I tell myself again and again that it must be nothing other than a spot where I had pricked myself upon a thorn or branch during yesterday's search. After summoning all of my remaining courage, I joined the search party once again. We numbered 5 in total today. Half of the remaining men have refused to join us again. Oh, look at this! Bunch of little guys forming a star. About 3 hours into the day, Mr. Johnson claimed to have caught sight of a boot print. My hopes were momentarily lifted, and I ran to his discovery. However, I tripped on the way over and hit my mouth on a rock that lay on the forest floor, biting my tongue as I fell, my mouth filled with blood, which soon began to dribble out onto my clothing. I soon realized that the rock had knocked one of my front teeth out of my mouth, although I could not find it anywhere on the forest floor. Perhaps I swallowed it in my confusion and pain. Ugh. Is that the one they found on the stump? To add insult to injury, it soon became apparent that there had been no boot print on the ground after all. The men did what they could to aid me, but we decided to call the day's search short, as we deemed it unwise to separate and allow me to return to town alone. Smart. We returned minutes before sunset, although there should have, by all accounts, been hours of daylight remaining. I have waited several days to collect myself, and I feel as though it is time that I recount what our party discovered on the 7th day of our search. We did indeed find the missing men from the first search party, but it was in no condition that any man should be found. I would not wish the violence that was inflicted upon them, even upon my worst enemy. We discovered them by the same large white rock we saw on our very first day of scouring the woods. They were long dead and had been butchered like animals, all laid out upon the rock in some unnatural formation that I can only assume be some form of satanic glyph, as it matches the symbols drawn onto their bodies in intermingled blood. Damn. The authorities have arranged a search for a madman or men and posted guards on the road to town. The guards are to remain there at all hours, but something tells me the perpetrators will elude their grasp. Something tells me they cannot be grasped at all. Oh, that's it? It's a really cool account, but the font was... my eyes. And my brain. The Execution of the Blair Witch, written by Anthony Rapanui. Oh, he wrote it himself. The museum guy. The script is a section of a historical play that I staged a few years ago titled The Past Never Dies, a first-person anthology of tales from Old Blair. This particular scene is a dramatization of the Honorable Judge Jonathan Goodneighbor's journal entries, written just a few months before his death in 1785. Goodneighbor's journal was originally found in the walls of the museum during HUD's renovations. A rat had made its nest out of the pages, but the few sections that were still legible have provided a fascinating insight into the trial and condemnation of the alleged Blair Witch. While the lack of concrete information regarding the accused witch deaths, those particular pages have been long since lost, forced me to take a number of creative liberties and make some educated guesses. All of the information on the directions that Goodneighbor took in the forest itself are accurate to history. Guilty, I tell you, guilty! INT? Was the abbreviation INT for? Judge Goodneighbor's quarters. Goodneighbor paces the floor of his bedroom and crosses to his desk. Sitting, he prepares his journal and writes. Interior? Oh. Okay. Goodneighbor, writing, wary. This is the journal of Jonathan Goodneighbor, recorded this horrid evening, February 17th, 1785. The townsfolk complain of witchcraft. Many children bear the same mark on their wrists from where she carved and siphoned blood. It was told to me that she collected the blood into several small bowls and arranged them in her cellar into some satanic symbol. I, being a godly man as well as a man of the law, ordered an investigation to be conducted at once. An hour's walk into the forest, we discovered the old woman's home, encircled with fencing of wood bound in twine. Oh, do you think the smoke they were following was the witch's cabin? Rushing inside into the fruit cellar, we found her standing in the corner, as if expecting our arrival. I saw no sign of the ritual and no evidence of her working her craft. It made no difference. She had ample time to conceal her doings, and the children's testimony was damning enough. We bound the hag in shackles and carried her to meet justice. Goodneighbor leans back in his chair, deep in thought. He stands, crossing to the window and to stare out at the town. We must put this witch on trial and submit her to her punishment without utmost haste. Blackout. Goodneighbor angrily storms into the room. It is dimly lit by a single candle. A storm rages outside the window. His desk is cluttered with books. He sweeps his arm across the tabletop, throwing the mess onto the floor. He sits and furiously begins to write. February 21st, 1785. It's always numbers where my Dutch slips out. Though the children of Blair exposed her deeds, the old woman had nothing to say on the matter. Even when I bellowed at her in a most thunderous voice to reveal her true purpose, she said nothing. Finally, I was left with no option but to take a hot poker to her skin, a reminder of the everlasting hellfire which awaits all those who refuse to repent. She did not so much as flinch. No mortal could have withstood the searing pain of that fire, and so it was proven in her silence that she was indeed wed to the devil. The trial was complete. The windows blow open, extinguishing the candle. The stage is dark. Damn storm. Flash of lightning briefly illuminates the room, revealing an old woman watching Good Neighbor as he closes the window. He doesn't seem to notice her. The room returns to darkness, and when Good Neighbor relights his candle, she's gone. He continues. I would love a horror play. That would be amazing. They don't make those, do they? As I delivered the sentence, I expected some cry or protestation, and yet she sat staring at the wall with unfocused eyes. Come the morning, my companions and I shall bring the witch to a quiet place to carry out her sentencing. With a heavy sigh, Good Neighbor lays down his quill. Then I guess it's the next day. He has heavy red scratches on the left side of his face and neck. His robes are torn and his boots are muddy. Februari 22, 1785. And so the courts have done their work and the law has been upheld. Desiring to place distance between ourselves and the fair town, we traveled until we came upon a huge bone-white rock. I suggested that we complete the deed there, as it seemed as good a spot as any. Oh, the white rock. However, we soon began to hear a terrible noise, the sound of hundreds of crows cawing in the distance. I judged the birds to be an hour from our position at the rock, but their cries echoed in a most loud and ominous manner. Doubtless, an omen. As they crowed in the distance, we pummeled the witch as punishment for summoning the beasts. Still, she made no sound. Though the witch was silent, the forest was not. The sound of cawing crows still echoed from a particular region of the forest itself, as if the land had taken on the cries of the birds and amplified them 100-fold. As the others clutched their ears in pain and fear, I found myself clutching at my greatest comfort, a locket containing a lock of my dear wife Propriety's hair. Propriety! To compose myself as I recited the Lord's Prayer. Unwilling to remain... What did I write down again? Find us where a shred of propriety was lost. Unwilling to remain in the same vicinity as the beasts, we turned from our position at the rock and fled for 5 hours in total, going the opposite direction from which the cacophonous cawing had so ominously emanated. While we fled the noise, I noted that a certain region of the forest contained a number of trees that appeared to have been ravaged by a large creature of some sort, and I warned my men to keep their wits about them. I was quite relieved when we left this particular area behind us. Our group continued straight forward on the course we had set away from the terrible noise. When the last sounds of the crows had faded and the forest was silent as a grave, save for the sounds of our party's footsteps, the witch finally broke her day-long silence. She requested that... Oh, she's still with them? I thought they left her dead on the rock. She requested that, were she to be left to die, she would be left in a grove of trees that she often sat amongst in the moments of silent contemplation. We, being an honorable and compassionate group of men, obliged. She turned at the slight angle and led us in a new direction, with myself directly at her back. Keeping a keen eye out for any signs of treachery, and my men behind me. As we walked, I began to hear behind my men murmur dreadful utterances about how we and our children would be doomed for our trespassing and our violence. I turned and ordered them to be quiet, but each and every man insisted that they had not uttered a word. After traveling for 2 hours in the witch's chosen direction, we came upon a hollow with a white tree at its center. I moved to bind the witch to the tree, a twisted, dying thing. Seeking out one final opportunity to sate her bloodlust, the witch clawed at my face and neck as I bound her, screeching all manner of hellish condemnation and tearing the locket from my neck. It was then that my companions fled, leaving me to carry out the deed on my own. Perhaps they feared she would soon break free of her bindings, and so I was left alone to complete the task. Her strength surprised me, but the power of all that is holy remained on my side, and I succeeded in my efforts to subdue her. I completed the deed, and so full of fear that I momentarily forgot about the locket, turned my back on the witch, and returned home. As I left the hollow, I began to feel an agonizing sensation of burning on the back of my neck, as if 2 hot coals had been pressed into my very flesh. I did not turn around to see what was behind me. Instead, I began to run back to town, not slowing or turning back once for the entire journey. Regretfully, I must leave my beloved locket behind. A fear grips me that, should I attempt to return to the forest again, I might not return home. From outside the window, the figure of an old woman in a dark and heavy cloak slowly approaches, watching Good Neighbor. I comfort myself with the knowledge that the witch's twisted heart will lie far away from civilized society forevermore. Still, I confess that I cannot forget the sound of her final cries and the terrible curse she uttered with her last gasping breath. But I comfort myself with the knowledge that, at last, this horridness is behind us. The old woman stands staring in through the window, no longer at Judge Goodneighbor, but at the audience. Cool, okay, so he lost a locket with his wife's hair at the white stump, the white tree, which is interesting. Is this the museum? Oh, maybe we should read the back first. Oh, here's A, so this is Anthony. This is an architectural drawing, complete with a series of handwritten notes that's been... He just wrote that on... Oh, maybe this is a copy. That's been on file at the museum ever since Kip's Hardware Depot collapsed in the mid-1940s due to a devastating infestation of parasites and mold that the original owners couldn't afford to repair. The lot stood empty until Mike and Bob's convenience store was built in 1951. It pains me to part with this piece of local history, but I don't think that anybody at the museum besides me will even notice its absence, and I know that you're going to put it to good use. Okay. Is the locket a shred of propriety? I think so, yeah. It's the original. I think it's supposed to be the original, yeah. It's like, you wouldn't... As someone who runs a museum, you would never write on the original paper, but... For the sake of the game, we'll allow it. Mr. Kip. A fella stopped by the store as I was closing up just now. Damn near gave me a heart attack, since I could have sworn that I'd already locked the front door. It was the guy who's been living out in the woods. Can't for the life of me remember his name, even though I swear that he introduced himself to me. Wait, I should take a sip of coffee. I'm just reading tea. Reading so much. He bought supplies, nails, shingles, things like that. Said that this place was damn near falling apart. Drew me a picture and made some notes so that I could get an idea of the scope of the project. Said he might come tomorrow morning for more supplies. Wanted to give you a heads up about it in case you're the only one in, because frankly he doesn't seem to be entirely right in the head. He was caked in dirt and there were all manner of rotting leaves and pieces of sticks tangled in his beard, and he kept trailing off in the middle of sentences. But surprisingly, he had enough money, and with the way business has been lately, I could hardly turn a customer away. Ned. P.S. Where did all the scrap paper that we usually keep under the counter go? I went to look for something to write a note on, but this drawing was the only paper on hand. That's why. I was wondering why they would write on that. Mr. Kip. You're not gonna believe this. Just now I was closing down the store when I heard a dull scratching sound coming from the wall behind the register. Remember last spring when the rats got in the walls? It sounded like that, so I headed to the basement to get the traps. I was only away for a few seconds, but when I came back upstairs, the hermit was in the store again. He was scraping something along the wall with a rusty old knife. I hollered at him to cut it out. He stopped, but he didn't even apologize. Just turned around and demanded that I sell him a shovel because she needed his basement to be deeper. Can't believe a guy like that managed to land himself a wife. I had him pay extra on account of the damage he did to the wall. Looks like he carved a bunch of stick figures. Would you mind painting over those when you get the chance? Do you think this is Carver, when he was still alive? Heebie-jeebies just looking at the thing just now. Mr. Kip. Guess I can just use this sheet as a running log of hermit updates. Can you imagine? Someone leaves you notes and they space it like that. Like, just do it all along the left and just straight. But I guess it looks creepier this way. Let's see. I guess I can just use the sheet as a running log of hermit updates. He visited again towards closing today. Said he needed an extra pair of hands to help him with a project because it needed to be done fast. Offered me a good amount of money to help him out on my day off from the store tomorrow, and I said yes. Though, thought I'd let you know just in case, and don't worry, I'll be bringing my hunting knife just in case he really is off his rocker, as people around town say. Mr. Kip, bunch of arrows. I know it's my day off, but I stopped by to tell you to ban that hermit from the store. Guess you're out on your lunch break, but listen, the man's a menace. I met him on the edge of the forest at sunrise today to walk up to his house. We started on the path to the lumber mill, but soon veered off from the path entirely. We walked in one direction for what I would judge to be 5 hours. As we walked, the hermit would occasionally mutter under his breath to himself, like he'd completely forgotten that I was there at all. I could barely hear what he was saying, but I thought that I could make out something about heading towards the horde of bones. We eventually reached the stream, and when we did, it was like he suddenly remembered that I existed again. He turned to me and he started talking about how there's a part of the forest where she pinned the shadows in place with pine needles, and that he made sure to build his place as far away from them as he could. He said that his cabin was another 3 hours down the river, away from the still shadows. He told me that I should count myself lucky that I wouldn't have to see those shadows just yet. Maybe it was just because I was spooked, but in the moment it sure as heck sounded like a threat. I made some excuse about forgetting that my ma wanted me home by lunch and said that I couldn't help him out with his repairs after all. I mean, just tell him that you didn't think his house was that far away if you'd been hiking for 5 hours. Then I all but ran back to town. I just thought you should know that I'm not going to be serving him anymore. If he comes into the store again, I'm just going to hide out in the basement until I hear him leave. I know that's not very professional, but it's the only thing I think I'll be able to do if I see him again. And that's God's honest truth. I'll see you tomorrow, Mr. Kip. So, window in the attic. She wants me to build plaster interior, cement exterior. She needs a basement. She expects company soon. Stone foundation, stick built. Whose house is this? Whose house are we looking at? Was it the blueprints for the museum? Is that what he said? Where's this? Oh, here. A map, a magnifying glass, compass. Yeah, what's the doc? Where does he describe it again? Huh. Is it just on the back? This is an architectural drawing complete with a series of handwritten notes. It's been on file at the museum ever since Kip's Hardware Depot collapsed in the mid-1940s. Kip's Hardware Depot. Didn't we have a map of the town originally? Episode 1? Oh, it's under the biggest pile of puzzles. Is this one? Yeah. Yeah. Mike and Bob's Convenience Store, 1951. Oh, number 3. There. So it's this place on the corner. Architectural drawing, complete with a series of handwritten notes, has been on file at the museum ever since Kip's Hardware Depot collapsed in the mid-1940s due to an infestation. So the house completely broke down. The lot stood empty until Mike and Bob's Convenience Store was built in 1951. Okay. So it's just on the corner. Next to the gas station now. Okie dokie. Is that everything then? Yeah, I think so. So this is the map of the guy, the only guy who came close to mapping the woods. And he said that there was a special trick to it. Like the... Oh. Here I see. There's tiny notes in it. Absolutely tiny. See that? There's a tiny bit of text under there. The magnifying glass, yeah. I mean, I can read it without it. I have plus a quarter, guys. I am good. Tears of the drowned ceaselessly flow down the creek. Deep underground, ancient roots wind through shattered skulls. Though the sun moves through the sky, the shadows of the pines stay fixed in place. I got reading glasses, guys. I even remember when I had all that eye strain. These glasses are so good. And I forgot my glasses upstairs this morning, and I was reading. I was like, I don't want to go get my glasses. I'll just read without them. And then I even through the chapter, my eyes started hurting. I was like, oh, I need my glasses. Okay, there's nothing there. Here I saw the eyeless creatures hoard their bones. So this is the hoard of bones that we heard about. This is faded. It's like they used the eraser. Climb the oak trees, leap into the air, but I will not give in. Here the vermin fester in the bleak sunlight, but dance under the light of the moon. He stows feed at blood-red dusk. There. The heavy limbs of trees are seared with claw marks and carvings. The ground with its dreadful murmurs will cradle careless travelers for eternity. Oh, that is tiny. The sky shines bright red. The sun and moon are nowhere to be seen. Forks of lightning erupt from the clear sky. Okay, that's not really anything that we read about. There's a couple X's on the map and they're erased out, so I wonder if they were doing some kind of puzzle. The people who had this before me. Okay. So does this actually point north? Or like, is it correct? It's saying that that's west. Is it? I think that's north. Yeah. Because my room always gets the morning sun. So northeast. Do you think there's some trick to this thing? Oh. Each square an hour. Ah. Okay. So that's how long you need to walk. It seems like it's all over the place though. Why is it moving like that? Phone interferes with it, you think? Oh yeah! Oh right, because the MagSafe. Oh, that's cool. I forgot the bottom is magnetic of my phone. There you go. Now, how are we gonna figure this out? There is the store guy. And that was the hoard of bones. So Burkittsville is down here. Am I zoomed out all the way? No. So Burkittsville is here. Timber. So he says, we started on the path to the lumber mill, but soon veered off from the path entirely. We walked in one direction for what I would judge to be 5 hours. As we walked, the hermit would occasionally mutter under his breath to himself, like he'd completely forgotten that I was there. Something about heading towards the hoard of bones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 hours. We eventually reached a stream. This is a stream. And when we did, it was like he suddenly remembered that I existed. He turned to me and he started talking about how there's a part of the forest where she pinned the shadows in place. There was a bit where it said the shadows don't move. Yeah, it's this one on the left. It says, though the sun moves through the sky, the shadows of the pines stay fixed in place. So that's here. He made sure to build his place as far away from that as he could. He said that his cabin was another 3 hours down the river, away from the still shadows. He told me that I should count myself lucky that I wouldn't have to see those shadows just yet. And then he turns around. So, would that be here? That definitely matches his description, but how do we tell... What does it say again? Forks of Lightning. Maybe we need to compare it with another account. So we put his here in, what is it, R7? Can you guys remember that? R7? 7R? I don't know which order. Maybe we should compare it with the diary? Or the execution account? Because they went into the woods too, and they mentioned the White Rock. But I don't think they mentioned any directions or anything, right? Also, I find it weird... Oh, this is almost loose. I find it weird that they're like... He's saying like, oh yeah, it was this many hours this way, but didn't we... We read the whole thing with the search party, and it was saying like how everyone experienced the time differently. So this 5-hour thing should be pointless, shouldn't it? Okay, so she gets sentenced. Let's see. Oh, I judged the birds to be an hour from our position at the rock. Is this... Do you think this is the rock? I don't think so. It doesn't look like a rock. It's not a white rock either. We traveled until we came upon a huge bone white rock. I suggested we complete the deed here. It seemed a good spot as any. However, we heard noises. The crows... They just say how they moved away from the sound. We turned from our position at the rock and fled for 5 hours in total, going the opposite direction. Wait, do we have... Was there anything about crows? Was there an entry about crows? Deep underground ancient roots. Tears that drown ceaselessly flow down the creek. Okay, so it doesn't say anything about crows. Yeah, and then she's like, take me to the tree. She wants to be left in a grove of trees that she often sat amongst in moments of silent contemplation. We turned at a slight angle and she led us in a new direction. Yeah, he doesn't give us many pointers. Unless this guy mentions anything. They stepped into some weird liquid. They also just say, we came upon a large white rock. From where we stood at the large white rock, we followed the stream towards the sound I heard. Almost as soon as we changed course, we came across a pile of dead rodents, 10 or more. Could that be the bones? It is along the creek. From where we stood at the large white rock, we followed the stream towards the sound. They appeared to have died fighting one another. Their flesh was torn to shreds. We walked 2 hours in that same direction, the smell of their rot seeming to linger. It must be that, right? So in his time it was still fresh, but now it's just a pile of bones, current day. So they kept walking for 2 more hours. Then as we neared a fork in the stream, so could that be this then? Has to be, there's nothing on the other side, so... Yeah, 2 hours from the bones. Yeah, must be. So the sound he heard was the rodents, so that means the rock is like around here. From where we stood at the large rock, we followed the stream towards the sound I heard. Almost as soon as I changed course, we came across a pile of dead rodents. We walked 2 more hours after that, and then neared a fork in the stream. So the rock is like here or here? Well, it has to be in the same, because if this is an hour, then it's not like from where we stood, we followed the stream. Almost as soon as we changed course, we came across them. So they must have been right around the corner. Okay, so the white rock is 07. Let's see. Then when they got to the fork in the road, fork in the stream, they sighted a wisp of smoke in the distance at an angle from our current course. It surprises all, especially myself. Turned slightly to head towards the smoke. We traveled 3 hours through ancient oak trees. The home was a small structure in ill repair. Smoke we had seen lingered. So 3 more hours after this in one of these directions. The sky shines bright red. The sun and moon are nowhere to be seen. So 1, 2, 3. So it's like, it's a big area, 3 hours. Yeah, they don't say anything about how long it takes to get home either. So, okay, so that gives us an idea of where the rock is. So maybe someone else goes to the rock. There is the search party from last episode, but I think... Shouldn't we be able to do it with just this episode? Because they can't guarantee that you keep all your... Like, someone can lose something from last episode. Wrong fork. Start at festering vermin. Oh, the vermin? This one? Here the vermin fester in the bleak sunlight, but dance under the light of the moon. Oh. 1, 2. But then this is 1 hour to the fork in the stream then, though. What is written in the dark green hills in the middle top? Oh, the crows. The crows feed at blood red dusk. They mentioned crows here. I forgot. This guy mentions the crows. We complete the deed at the White Rock. Soon we began to hear a terrible noise, the sound of hundreds of crows cawing in the distance. I judged the birds to be an hour from our position, but their cries echoed in a most loud and ominous manner. So this spot, this is an hour from where the rock is. Let's see. Oh, here, large white rock. We followed the stream towards the sound I heard. Almost as soon as we changed course, we came across a pile of dead rodents. They appeared to have died fighting one another. Walked 2 hours in the same direction. Near the fork. Yeah, could be here. And then there's vermin, and then 1, 2... fork in the stream. But that just means we know the location of the rock. That means we don't know the location of the white tree, right? Because that's somewhere else. Because she's like, take me there instead. Okay. The play. How long are they running from the crows? We turned from our position at the rock and fled for 5 hours in total, going the opposite direction from which the cacophonous cawing had emanated. So if the rock is here and the crows are to the right of it, that means they would go 5 hours, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to here, right in the middle. Someone wrote something there, but I can't read it. It's like something in pencil. S-H... I don't know. So they are there. Oh, and then they say a certain region of the forest contained a number of trees that appeared to have been ravaged by a large creature. Because it does... Yeah. The heavy limbs of trees are scarred with claw marks and carvings, it says here. So yeah, this is the right track. Quite relieved to leave that area behind us, we continued. When the last sound of crows had faded and the forest was silent, the witch finally broke her days-long silence. She requested... Okay, so then she's like, take me to the tree. She turned at a slight angle and led us in a new direction. So it's not straight, at least. Yes, after traveling for 2 hours, here it says it. After traveling for 2 hours in the witch's chosen direction, we came upon a hollow with a white tree. So it's 2 hours from here. At a slight angle. So if you go like this, it's probably here? The ground with its dreadful murmurs will cradle careless travelers for eternity. Oh, the murmurs! Oh! As we walked, I began to hear behind me my men murmur dreadful utterances. I turned and ordered them to be quiet, but each and every man insisted they had not uttered a word. So they went through this. So if they were here, then it has to be this X here. There's whoever they put so many X's on the map, but maybe this one? So they passed through the murmurs to get here. I would say that's a good guess. Like the claw marks, the crows, the murmurs, they match up. And then yeah, I think the thing with Ned is just like a red herring, because it's just he just comes from here to the bones, and they talk about the pines. I don't know what that means. And then the other search party talked about the rock, so that corroborates the other account that the rock is there, because they talk about the vermin and the fork in the stream. So that is where he left his pendant with his wife's propriety's hair in it. And Carver says, come where there's a shred of propriety. Right? Find us where a shred of propriety was lost. Yeah, has to be. So, I think page 4. Let's have a look. New message, right? So, what's her question exactly? She says, you need to cross-reference the map with the historical accounts Anthony has given us to find the location of Carver's hiding place. When you figure it out, send me the correct map coordinates on the tip line. Okay, so are we just sending her H4? That's probably enough then, right? Yes.
Good. I've been waiting out here for a few hours. Something told me that you'd find me the answers that I needed today. Now I know where to go. Thank you. Whoa, hold on, boy. Hold on, let me get my bag. You know, it's kind of a relief to be out here. The house is unbearable. It's so quiet. And I hate being at the Silver Moon. I can't stand the looks everyone gives me. More and more lately, I've just been staring out into the woods or reading about the woods or sitting up in the middle of the night thinking about the woods.
Mm-hmm.
I know, buddy, I know. He seems antsy. I hope he'll be able to pick up a scent. I've noticed when I come out here to search for the boys that the further you go in, the quieter it gets. It's not a peaceful quiet, though. It's tense. Like the whole forest is holding its breath. Hud and I would come out here sometimes when we were first started dating. He knew all kinds of facts about nature. Moss grows on the north side of a tree, he'd say. I have no idea if that's actually true. We used to chase each other around and leave each other these little notes.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few years later, down the road, Hud started bringing Liam to cut wood with him until I lost him to this place. Oh, we're going to get my sons out of here. Even if I have to end up just like Hud to do it. Goodbye for now.
Oh my god. So we have to wait until next episode to hear from her again and see if she makes it out. Does her voice sound different from the other ones? No, it's the same. She's just not as frantic, stressed. That was awesome. That was really good. Yeah, I'm getting really into it. This was also a good different one compared to when we did like episode 1 or 2. I was like, man, this is really like decoding heavy, and it seemed like all we were doing was decoding messages and stuff, but now we're like, this is a totally different puzzle. We had to like cross-reference accounts to see where certain locations were on the map. I mean, this was kind of pointless, except for that on the back it says each square an hour. And then this, I guess, if you're like my mom, who keeps saying that she doesn't need reading glasses and she can read it just fine, she would use a magnifying glass for sure. That's not how you fold it. I never know how to fold these things. Good enough. So, only 2 more episodes after this. Choo choo. That was awesome.